Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats? I hope you got me something to eat. Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party. I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party. Oh, chocolate and gabbing, maybe some microphone grabbing at the after party. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. I am joined today by my co-pilot on this ship we call life here on the internet. Omega's in the building.
What's up?
I had some other guests lined up, but several people were not available. But we may have special guests moving forward. I'm trying to get more people involved in this podcast, so we'll see. I'll ask a few more people, spice it up a little bit, get some different opinions so we can argue and fight on stream. Oh, the reality is I am tired. So I don't know if you guys knew, but I really hadn't been working a regular club schedule since January.
Really?
So yeah, I've been doing like just random gigs here and there. And this weekend is the beginning of my like return to normal for schedules.
Okay.
And so I worked a normal like 6 hours at the club last night. So I'm super tired. Super tired. But I'm here. We're here. We got some stuff to talk about. It's a big week.
Oh,
we have
boy.
Three shows. I can tell you right now already, Omega is going to have some hot takes for some of these shows.
Yep.
So be ready for that. I don't know what it's going to be like. We didn't talk about it before. Like literally we got on the stream and I was like,
it kind of just started. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka first. We're going to get the finale out of the way. Then we're going to talk about Loki season 2, episode 1. And then we're going to wrap it up with the show that we have to save for the end because YouTube will come.
YouTube will screw him.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Gen V and some controversy around one of the actors. I don't know if you've heard about it or not.
Ooh, no, I didn't hear about that.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, there's some controversy, so we'll get into that as well. All right, so first of all, spoilers are in full effect. So anything we talk about today will be spoilery. So if you did not see these shows, just be warned that anything and everything is on the table. Before we get started, though, did you hear about YouTube's new feature?
Oh, you mean fucking pronouns? Oh, I didn't mean to cuss right in the first.
It's okay. We're good. We're about 4 minutes in.
Okay, cool.
Yes, YouTube has decided to allow people an option that almost every social media site is doing now, which is you can optionally. I want to put that in like bold lettering.
You don't have to do this if you don't want to.
You can optionally, just like with almost any other service, add pronouns if you want. Or you can ignore it and not use it at all, right?
Yeah, I always dude, I played D&D with a couple of trans people, and it's never been that much of an issue with that. And I even say, look, I'll go by he, him, she, her, they, them, it, that.
Well, first of all, that's a fantasy setting. Like you can play anything you want.
And it's like for one, I play a lot of female characters anyway, so it's like big deal, whatever. Just for
I'm
me
pretty sure when you're
like,
playing Final Fantasy 14, people would refer to you as she because
I play a female character. Yeah, but it's kind of like. Yeah, for me, it's not that big a deal. So it's like, I don't care. But for some people, it is a big deal. That is their identity. So just out of sheer human respect, come on.
Well, I just think it's funny because the people that were complaining about Starfield, refunded the game because they're like, I'm not going to engage in this.
There's plenty of reasons to refund that game. Fucking pronouns is not it.
But the funny thing is the people that did that now have to deal with the fact that it is also an optional thing on YouTube. So are they going to like get off YouTube now?
They're not. They're hypocrites.
Think about it. Like, honestly, if they were about that shit, right? Like, if they were really about it, and you log into YouTube and you see that there's a pronoun option, you should be like, well, I'm done with this website. I'm out of here. But that's not going to happen because it
course.
was all a big fucking virtue signal from them.
Yeah, because that's where the money comes in.
Yeah.
Promote like rage clicks and everything.
I thought it was quite funny. Before we talk about it, we do have a chat here from Hell's Bells. Not a super chat, but I wanted to answer this. Don't suppose you also watch Flag Means Death this week? It is on my list to watch. I have not watched it.
I have not heard of this one.
It's by Taika Waititi, the same person that did Ragnarok, and it's a show on, I believe it's on HBO Max. I've got so many streaming services, I don't know for sure, but I'm not going to say there's other ways for you to watch it, but there's probably other ways for you to watch it. It's a show about pirating, so
okay,
that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right, let me pick that up.
Anyway, I'm super excited about it. I really enjoyed the first season. It's a funny ass show, so definitely check it. It's not politically correct if you're into like just whatever humor. That's kind of what the show is.
Oh, seems like right up my alley then.
Pretty much anything goes. Yeah, it's one of those types of shows, which is good. It's cool. All right, let's start out with Ahsoka. So this was the season finale for Ahsoka. And we talked about this last week that leading up to this episode, there were a lot of questions hanging in the balance for what we wanted to see for the finale. I've seen people complain about all kinds of stuff. We'll get into that. I will say this starting out before we even talk about it, because I think it's important for me to put this out there before I start giving my nitpicks about it. A finale for me is you can be the most critical about a finale because a finale is the end of the season and it gives you a chance to look back at everything before and go, what is it that I wanted from this finale? What did they give me? And then how does that work for me as a viewer? And I have to say, I loved pretty much the first 75% of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And then the last two episodes sort of didn't. Okay, I like this one better than the previous episode. Yes. But I still feel like there were things hanging at the end of this episode that shouldn't have been left hanging. And the people that I watch it with that also are not, knowledged on Star Wars stuff, felt like they were waiting for more Thrawn to be out there. They wanted to see more about that character. There was some stuff, some logical things that weren't addressed in the episode that I think were kind of weird. So for me, this was a weaker episode of the season. I still enjoyed the season as a whole, but I think that this was probably the second worst episode of the season. I think the worst was the penultimate, and this would be the second worst for me. It
was a decent series. It's just it did not stick the landing, honestly.
Yeah,
I gotta be
unfortunately. So let's start with your thoughts on this. What is something in the episode that let's start with good things. Is there anything that you really liked about the episode?
Like, once again, the cinematography was beautiful. All the special effects were great. It's very hard to tell between what's practical and what's CGI. The whole thing, the fight choreography was good. The whole thing with the Death Troopers, I thought was a nice nod. All the other nods to other various, even the title of the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
I thought that was clever. Yeah, that was a clever one. Yeah,
all that I thought was cool. But in this kind of like.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think someone who is a fan of the previous material will appreciate this finale more than someone?
Okay, that's just what I was probably going to say later. Is like someone who's seen Rebels and Clone Wars and all that would definitely enjoy this a bit more than someone who have not seen those previous.
Before we get into that, because there is some stuff about Ezra and how his story sort of ends in the season that I think addresses that issue. But let's talk a bit about the fight scenes in this episode. We had several of them throughout the episode. We had the sword of Talzan. I think it's Talzan is the blade of Talzan, which is something that has been established already. It has been. I looked it up. It was something that was in the cartoon, so it wasn't just out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's like a scimitar type blade with like green magic on it.
Dathomiri witch, Night Sister witch magic, whatever.
And a lot of people were also talking about like they didn't like the fact that Morgan was fighting the way she was, but she fought like that in Mandalorian. We saw her fight.
Oh yeah.
So she's a capable fighter.
Yeah.
I don't know what was so funny about that, other than the fact that she'd been transformed by the Night Sister.
Holy shit! I just realized that was the same person from.
Didn't she use the spear?
I just realized that's the same person.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's the same character.
God dang, I gotta look this up.
Chat can correct me. They always do.
It was. I remember the name Morgan Espelth, and then It is the same character. Okay, yeah. I was like, I just realized that.
So acting as if her fighting now is something unusual seems a little weird because we've already seen that she can fight. Yeah. Yeah, so this was it. Like, I think this was the best fight in the episode, the Ahsoka versus Morgan fight.
Yeah, and apparently the actress who plays Morgan, she's like like the daughter of someone who was trained by Bruce Lee or something. So yeah, she knows her shit.
Yeah. I thought it was good. I honestly didn't have an issue with that at all. And so that's one of the complaints I've been seeing, which should make a lot of sense because I'm like, we've already seen her fight, so I don't know why that's such a big deal. Two characters that sort of got left hanging for us were Shin and Balin. We don't really know what's going to happen with them.
They were the most interesting out of the entire series, and we got left with nothing with them.
Right.
We just see them near the end, and that's about it.
So Shin is going to be doing something with the Raiders. Yeah, and Balin is just standing on a statue. What's the significance of that statue?
Because the statue is the Mortis Force gods, the father, the son, and the daughter. Father is the daughter is the light side, the son is the dark side, the father keeps it in the middle.
So is that what they're saying Balin is? He's like,
Balin's probably going to be either. Well, just some are saying that Anakin's actually going to be the father since he's already been fully into the dark side, fully into the light side. So he's probably going to keep the balance. Balin's probably going to be the dark side, and then Ahsoka's going to take over the daughter's role as the light, as the light side. So
it's actually pretty interesting. Diana Lee Sato's debut in The Mandalorian season 2 was on Bruce Lee's birthday.
Ooh, nice.
So Dinah says the statue of the Mortis gods. Yeah.
Hey,
what's up, Laura? How you doing?
A lot of people have a lot of the contention when it comes to the Mortis gods. Some people don't like them. I'm fairly indifferent with them, so I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So we do know that they're going to have to recast Balin. We're going to see him again. If they,
that's why I'm totally okay with as long as they have like a good recast. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And look, I like Shin as well. And again, like you said, they're the most interesting characters on the show. I feel like they should have been explored a little bit more, but I maybe think that was the whole purpose.
That's the whole point, just to set them up, and then they're probably going to have like either their own spinoff or they're going to be in another project later on down the line. Who knows?
So this is interesting. We should talk about this too. Ezra building the lightsaber. So the implication of Ezra building his saber so quickly is either he had the blue crystal on him from the old saber, or Wang Ahsoka kept them spare. Now, the issue I've seen with this is that obviously the crystals are not easy to come by, and they're a big part of your initiation to being, getting to be, I guess, in a higher rank for being a Jedi, to get your own lightsaber and all of that. Kind of walk me through your thought process on this one, on him building the saber here.
I think he just had his own, he still had his crystal from his old saber. It was broken somehow, so that's why he just didn't use it. So, but in the ship that Hu Yang was on, that was the ship that they used for younglies to actually go out and train and build their own lightsabers anyway. So he had he said he had all the parts there, and because he was, I'm not sure if some people caught this. I've seen a few people online who did. When Hu Yang was even saying like, here, you use this emitter, he's like, no, that's not going to work. The blade would be too thin. That was kind of a shot at the Rebels, being that the lightsaber blades were very thin, kind of like how they were in the original theatrical release of A New Hope.
Right,
the blades was very thin at the time, and Rebels was kind of went back to that art style. It was just an art style choice. It was nothing like canonical. They use a certain emitter to make. No, it was just an art choice. That was all.
Yeah. I totally thought this was them trying to sell lightsabers, because when you go to Disney, they have like a lightsaber building station, and it's very similar to how that room was set up, where you get all the pieces and put it together. I'll be honest, I have a lightsaber that I built at Disney as well. And it's this.
Get my one from with the Dragon Con in 2019.
Yeah, was it the same way you get to build it there?
No, well, yeah, kind of is like you just kind of go through a line. It was a long line, and you just kind of have a list of things. But I just saw one that was up there. I was like, okay, yeah, I want that one, but in purple.
Well, I have to say that I thought that was them trying to sort of like sell some lightsabers here and there, which is fine. I mean, if that's what they're trying to do, it's at the end of the day, it is a popular franchise.
Yeah. So anyway, kyber crystals, they come from the planet Ilum, which is you now know that as Starkiller Base. So in the past, they used to go to the planet Ilum to get these naturally occurring crystals to power the lightsabers. Now that the Empire's completely taken over, they hollowed out Ilum and turned it into Starkiller Base.
Well, there we go. So,
you see bits of that in Jedi Fallen Order, where you actually go to Ilum and you see like this giant trench just gets carved into the equator of the planet.
Yeah. So a lot of people were complaining that Thrawn's plan was very simple. It was a very basic, like, let's hold him off until we can escape.
That's kind of how Thrawn is. He's very practical. Yeah, he has his like overarching, like, I'm gonna do this, and then it's all going to lead up to this. Sometimes he's also like, I haven't read actually the Timothy Zahn book, so someone who actually read those will probably be way more versed in this. But yes, sometimes if it's practical, if it's a simple plan, if it works, he'll go with it. Not everything has to be like a chessboard.
I want to sort of just echo what I said last week about Thrawn, and I want to make this very clear before we move on, because I don't think we have much else to say about him, because there wasn't a lot there other than him telling Morgan she had to stay after they were leaving. It really was a very minimal amount of Thrawn. Mm-hmm. And if I have one negative as a newbie person watching the show, it's that Thrawn wasn't fleshed out well enough in the series.
No, not really. You have to know a bit more about Thrawn to really get what's going on. And even then, it's like, especially if you haven't seen Rebels, if you haven't read the Thrawn books or anything like that, which I heard they're freaking amazing. You're kind of like in the dark, like, who is this guy?
Yeah. And that's kind of the questions a lot of people had when we got done watching it, was like, we never really truly understood,
how the sun that changed. Colonel Christmas wasn't just on Elam. That's just where the majority of them were from.
Right. So, So anyway, I think they should have fleshed out Thrawn a little bit more, because honestly, I felt like we knew more about Balin and Shin than we did as Thrawn. And that's weird, because he was the main antagonist of the season in terms of like who they were looking for. Anyway, so I wish they would have fleshed him out a little bit more. I also saw people complaining about Sabine being a Mary Sue, and I'm like, how is she a Mary Sue at this moment?
People who haven't seen Rebels or are ignoring Rebels will call her a Mary Sue, because I saw that one tweet saying that, another Mary Sue with no training. I'm like, motherfucker, do you know this woman is a Mandalorian, also got trained by a Jedi to use the dark saber. She went through some stuff and learned how to fight. She is not a Mary Sue. Oh God, get off the internet. Go out.
Look. There were people saying that she's actually had more training than Luke had when he started fighting. Yeah. So you can't, like, let's compare Sabine to other like main characters, right? So we have Luke, we have Rey. I think Sabine has probably had more training than both of those characters, and they were leads of movie franchises.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit weird. I feel like they're just reaching to find.
I have issues with Sabine in this series. I'm honestly not a huge fan of how they portrayed her in this. I liked her better in Rebels, but yeah, I would. Mary Sue? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair criticism. I think there are some criticisms.
Yeah, there's some criticisms there, but Mary Sue is not one of them.
I mean, look, her personality is not great. I think a lot of people would find her personality.
Yeah, they're really trying to get us to like her, and it's like she kind of regressed from Rebels, and I'm not a fan of that.
Right. So I can understand like people going, I don't like her personality or whatever, but to call her a Mary Sue is a little weird considering the amount of training that she's had as a character. I mean, she's actually had more time as a character in Star Wars than a lot of the lead characters have had. Yeah. And so that's a pretty big step for them in terms of the show. Let's see. Eric's Reloaded. This is problematic to do with the fact that if you did your homework and watched all previous shows, you wouldn't have. If you hadn't watched everything, you would. But I don't think that's a fair criticism, because this show is establishing a new series that does connect to stuff previously, but they never made it seem like you had to watch anything previously. And I would even say that other than Thrawn, you don't really have to watch anything previous to this. There are small bits and pieces in it that I think would help you as a fan, but every single person that I watched it with that never watched a single animated thing from this world, the only criticism they had is they didn't know anything about Thrawn. Yeah. And I think that's a fair criticism.
He literally came up out of nowhere, especially if you don't follow the Legends books, the current Disney canon books, or anything, past that. And because he's very outside of Rebels, he was only in the comics and the books.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think even watching from the show, I don't think you could call her Mary Sue, because she was not like a chosen one. Matter of fact, Wang said that she wasn't even going to be any good at all. Like,
yeah. Because I think even Ahsoka said like if this was like during not the hype, but back during when the Order was still around, she wouldn't have been chosen. Because like I think Dave Filoni said everyone. I think even Lucas said this. Everyone's is in tune with the Force in some way or another. Some more so than others.
Right. So Growly Bear, I think this is a fair criticism because this is what I meant when I said earlier that you can complain about things from Sabine. Yeah. But her being a Mary Sue to me,
like someone in the chat just mentions, like they didn't really see it as an aggression. They saw a regression. They saw it more as just her standing still. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. I would say that's fair too.
Yeah, yeah. I get it, Cameron. I wasn't suggesting that was what you were saying. I was addressing the implication itself. But yeah. Let's talk a bit about some of the storyline stuff. So basically, we get a lot of moving parts in this episode. We get back to the palace or the tower that leads up to the ship. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, and I know it's a joke, it's a gag in Star Wars, but stormtroopers are pointless. They're like so pointless as characters because they literally are the epitome of red shirts. They're like, they just don't serve any purpose at all.
I don't like that. I like my villains to be, I guess it's just a personal thing for me. I like my villains to be competent. It makes them that much more scary.
Yeah.
Unlike because especially with I know it's in a lot of Dave Filoni projects, especially like with Clone Wars and Rebels, the stormtroopers, or in the Clone Wars case, the drone army are idiots.
I don't know a lot about the Night Troopers. I mean, I understood what they were in this show, in this particular series.
I
don't know a lot about.
So. The Night Troopers, yeah, that's something specifically for this. I thought you said the Death Troopers because that's something that was off in like some other. I want to say it was a comic or was it a book? Basically, it was like some virus that the Empire was messing around with, got out of control and just turned people into zombies. Really good series.
I want to address this because this goes with the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is the zombie stormtroopers. So although the zombie stormtroopers are really cool, and they've obviously been used before, I've seen people mention that this is something that has come up in other aspects of Star Wars. With specifically, I think it's like one story where zombie stormtroopers are used. Is that accurate or?
Outside of the Death Troopers, no, not really. Oh well, there was the Night Sister. It was on Clone Wars. I want to say it was Clone Wars. With the Night Sisters, also in Fallen Order, the Night Sisters call up these zombies of like their fallen sisters, and they just start going after. I think it was Anakin and somebody. I can't remember.
Right.
You were going after Darth Maul or somebody.
So here's my thing with the Merrick character. I don't know if a lot of people that watched it will connect the dots between Merrick and what was happening with these stormtroopers, even though it's very obvious to me that it was a connected thing.
Especially after he died. Yeah, it's like, okay, I see where they're going with this.
It's really unfortunate that Merrick didn't get a more fleshed out story because I mean I feel like that's a cool character, but
like they did with Maul at the beginning, because like before all of the extra stuff, when it was just the like Phantom Menace, but episodes 1, 2, and 3, it's like they had, like, especially just in the Phantom Menace, they had a great character. Dude looked badass. He had the double-bladed lightsaber, which we've never seen before at that time, and they kill him off in the first movie. I mean, it's like that character was so badass they had to resurrect him and put him in other stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say even with Darth Vader, they didn't really, not Darth Vader, but like Boba Fett, they really didn't do much with Boba Fett in episodes 4, 5, and 6, and even another reason why I hate the sequels, 7, and 8, they kill off Phasma, a freaking chromed out stormtrooper they did nothing with.
Yeah.
It's a common thing in Star Wars where they have a great villain and they do nothing with them.
I actually think Merrick's story was more interesting than some of the stuff we got in the back half of the season. So that's why I was kind of annoyed that it never ended up panning out for anything. Now I'm assuming Merrick was a Sith that was resurrected.
I think he was probably a not a Night Sister. He was probably an Inquisitor that died and then they resurrected.
It's weird that we never got any.
Yeah, we got nothing more for him. So he was just a cool villain that they used once and then tossed away. That was it.
I also think resurrecting stormtroopers is pointless. Like they're not going to do anything different once they get up after being resurrected. That's why.
If some of y'all played like the old like D20 Star Wars game or the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, stormtroopers were deadly accurate. You do not F with stormtroopers in that game. Because
Right.
it's like if you don't take like a dodge action or something, because it's like you can like move, shoot, and then you can take like a dodge action. If you don't do that, they will just beeline you every time.
Yeah.
It's like those stormtroopers were deadly. It is like in this, they're just almost comic relief at this point. They're just fodder for the hero to look cool.
Okay, I want to give him a shout out though. I think the visuals look cool this episode. All the stuff
visuals are amazing.
And all
this entire series was
really
great.
Cool. Before we move on to the next part, because we're getting close to I think we're sort of wrapping everything up or whatever. We have Ezra getting onto the ship using the Force.
One of the best characters in this series.
Right. So Ezra's on the ship, and we have Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huang trying to catch the ship in space because they need to get off. By the way, I saw people complaining about how they stopped the TIE fighters by running the ship through the TIE fighters and having it crash, on the planet or whatever. I thought that was pretty stupid, but I don't know what else they would have done in that situation.
It's like ties are pretty fragile. That's something that Sabine would do. So I'm like, meh, whatever.
Yeah. So, we had that happen. They end up getting the ship working, but not good enough to catch up with the other ship before it takes off and goes back to the home galaxy. And so we have them left on the planet for now. And who knows how they're going to get off the planet. I would assume that the Purgles could be an option if they manage to catch up.
Yeah, they could always get the Purgles to jump back.
But who knows when that's going to happen. We have no clue time-wise or whatever. And so we have Shin, Baylan, Ahsoka, Sabine, Wang are all stuck on Peridia. And so that's the end of their story for the episode.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Especially when Baylan looks off and it just sees that one beacon kind of just going on and off. A lot of people are saying that's probably Abeloth. Now, Abeloth, going back to the Mortis gods, like I said, there was the father, son, and daughter. There's also the mother. The mother was a mortal woman who she did something to try to make herself immortal, but something wrong happened, and then she ended up going crazy. And then she's kind of like this elemental chaos type figure now. And she was probably I think it was something like, now someone in the comments, please correct me on this, because I think I have this wrong. It's like something like they captured her and then trapped her into somewhere on Peridia, and then that's when they went to the current galaxy.
So she would still be trapped there, like on the planet. Then is what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, then I think the Night Sisters kind of have their religion based off of her, and then that's when they kind of went on to the current galaxy to do their thing. But then they had like the base, some people that was still left over here with us. So you have the Night Sisters that were that Thrawn was allied with and all that. I'm kind of skipping around here and there, but I'm sure someone in the comments, please fill in the blanks for me, because I'm not 100% on that story.
We have a super chat. We'll answer that when we get done here. We're almost done with our story, with our review here. So one of the things that baffled me is Ezra escaped somehow from the ship. They never showed how that happened. I mean, I'm assuming that he basically stole the gear from that stormtrooper.
If you watch Rebels, you'll know exactly, because he does this a million times in Rebels. Him and Kanan always dress up as stormtroopers. They'll kind of sneak around, like fake credentials or whatever, or like disguise his voice. So it's like, because every time Ezra gets captured, he's like, "Who are you, kids?" Like Jabba the Hutt.
Right.
They do this constantly. So if you watch,
but see,
Rebels,
the problem is, I feel like
if you haven't watched Rebels, you're like, what the heck? What happened?
That feels like something that they left out of a live action show that we don't have any concept of.
Yeah,
and that was a problem. The second thing is when he arrives with the rebellion, he walks out wearing the stormtrooper helmet, which I'm like, why are you doing that?
Because he likes to collect stormtrooper helmets.
Again, I know, but they were ready to shoot him. Like, why was he?
Yeah, that was kind of dumb. He could have been like, "Hey, look, it's me. Don't shoot."
Yeah, why didn't he just say who he was? It seemed really stupid to me. I know they wanted dramatic effect, but they didn't even come up with an excuse like, "Oh, his transmitter's broken" or something to make it seem like
it was just like it was almost like it was an afterthought scene.
Yeah, which sucks because I felt like that was another knock in armor.
That was another miss. That was another miss for him. Otherwise, decent show. That was another miss.
Also,
seeing Rebels, you would know the relationship between Hera and Ezra, but people that didn't know that, because I took the time to actually look that up, they thought that they might be in a relationship together because they made it seem like she was really happy to see him in sort of a romantic way.
That's like his mom. That's like his
adoptive
mom.
Exactly. But I mean, like, people that don't know that have no concept, because she's been running around with this kid with no father there.
Yeah, it's like
Ezra shows up.
No, that's like Hera's like his adoptive mom.
So it's so weird, because everybody that said that, I'm like, no, that's not their relationship. And I mean, that's the one thing that I was aware of.
I'm going to be respectful to Obi-Wan's wife. Hera got nice ass. I'm respectfully. Hey, look, that's Obi-Wan's wife. I'm being respectful.
Yeah.
But no, that's actually Ewan McGregor's wife. Actual real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that was just a weird thing. I didn't understand why they went with that choice at the end. Yeah. Look, ultimately, Ahsoka didn't stick the landing for me. Yeah. And I know that's not going to be the answer for everybody. And if you loved it, you loved it. I'm not going to try and twist anybody's arm or change anybody's mind here.
If someone says it's like a 4 or a 3, I'm like, fair, I get you. If someone says
it's
like a 9
totally
or 10, I'm like, come on, nah.
This didn't feel like a finale to me. I feel like we needed another episode.
This is the continuation is going to be in season 2.
Yeah. I think, well, a lot of people are saying also the movie is going to carry some of this over into the movie, the Dave Filoni movie, which is fine, but that's not obvious to everybody. I feel like one of the big issues with Star Wars media and maybe even Marvel media on Disney is we don't have an idea of where these things are going to go. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do something just to build up a character, like say Ms. Marvel, where you do a whole series introducing a character, then to me, that's fair. You're saying this is the character, and then we can use that character somewhere else.
Yeah. So when you see it again, people would know, like, or they'll at least know, oh, who is this character? Where's it from? Watch this series. Like, oh, okay, cool.
With Ahsoka, this is a character that a lot of people were meeting for the first time, but it's a character that has a vast history in Star Wars. Same thing with Sabine, same thing with Ezra, same thing with Thrawn. So you take these characters, this is the next stage of who these characters are in that world. But then if you don't go online and dig up research about where they're going next, you have no idea.
Like a total Star Wars nerd like me who's seen Star Wars Rebels, all the movies except for like Solo.
So I think it's fair if they want to hold some of this off for other properties, but they need to make it very clear.
Yeah, at least
that there is a through line.
It's like a concise, not even concise, like close up parts here and there. Like nothing was closed. Everything is wide open. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. If it's intentional, they better come up with something quick.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple super chats here. Naruto here with the $5 super chat, Team Airrick member. The episode was clearly set up for the Mandoverse movie. Also, Zeb should have been in this.
Yeah, I saw that comment earlier. I was like, yep, I fucking love Zeb. He's my favorite character in Rebels. I
feel like so much of the Star Wars TV universe is now is pretty much filtered around Mandalorian, because that is probably the most popular show in terms of the shows in the Star Wars TV universe. So I don't have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the Mandalorian, it was set up like as a Western. Anyone who's not even into sci-fi could still get into the Mandalorian for a few episodes. I know there was like some in the later seasons of the later episodes of season 3 was kind of missed for a lot of people, which I get, but. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was massive field, but a lot of people could get into it. They could relate to it, especially because I'm just ranting here. Because especially, Bill Burr even said, the guy who played what's his name, the sniper guy, the Imperial sniper, I forget his name. But anyway, he was like, he was saying like people were complaining about his Boston accent. So he was like, so wait a minute. You have a giant walking carpet over here, and talking. The guy talks to the carpet, and the carpet talks back, and you have a problem with me having a Boston accent.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Yeah, Mayfield, that's his name. Yeah, because characters like him, like a lot of just people who aren't into Star Wars can relate to him. He's just a regular, like just military dude who's in the midst of all this crazy stuff.
Naruto also has another $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support, Naruto. I see people complaining about them using the Force on the door. The Force works, however, the writer of that episode.
Exactly, yeah. Wait, people were complaining about them using the Force on the door?
I haven't seen it, but it doesn't surprise me. Honestly,
they have been using the Force on opening dang near everything since the 70s.
Yeah,
it's episode 1. They have been doing that. Oh my God, go out, talk to women, touch grass, look at the sun. Jeez. That's stopping me. Oh my god.
We're talking about things that I had issues with. This was something that this one I didn't care about. Like, I didn't care about this at all. But I mean, I guess some people did. I don't know. Thank you for that super chat. That was funny. God. That was funny. So I'm not going to grade this episode by itself because I feel like this episode is a gateway between the end of the season and whatever this movie is going to be. If I'm grading the episode, it's mid. I would just say mid. It's a mid episode.
It's not great. It's not god awful by any means.
Yeah. I don't want to give it a number because I don't have a number that really works for me. I mean, I feel like I feel like giving it a 4 is too low for me, but giving it a 7 is too high. It's just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, with that, I'm gonna say it's a solid 6. It's all right. It's pretty good.
So with that being said, what would you grade the whole season right now? Would you say this in terms of like numbers if you had to do 1 to 10? It
started off strong and just didn't stick to landing. I'm gonna give it a series as a whole 7.
Okay,
it's fine.
That's fair. I'd probably give it a 7 as well.
I would say maybe bump that up a point or two.
Yeah, without Rebels, I think it's a solid 7.
Yeah.
With Rebels, it probably goes up
about
a little bit.
7.5 or an 8.
Because like here we had Cody say, where was it at here? This is the culmination of 15 years of history, practically. Yeah, so I guess if you're someone that loved that stuff, you're going to give it a higher score, and I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah,
I have no issue with that whatsoever. All right, so now we're going to move on and talk about Loki season 2, episode 1. I don't think we're going to be spending a lot of time because I think
just one
Omega's going to rant. Yeah. I'm going to let you go first because I made a review about it already, and people here probably saw my review, so I will fill in more in my review. But just what are your general thoughts on it? And you said you have some criticism about it, so I'm curious what you have to say. I really am. So the floor is yours.
Loki, I actually really enjoyed this episode. We was talking about earlier when I said I don't have too many positive thoughts on it. That was for Rebels episode, Rebels season 6. I meant to say
right,
but Loki. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
Okay, so you don't have a lot of criticisms about it, then, is what you're saying for Loki? Okay, I've seen a lot of people complaining about this episode. And some people have said, "Oh, it was a bunch of nothing," and this, that, and the other. It's the first episode
come on,
of the season.
Yeah, this is like this is like episode 6 out of like 10, and then I'm like, what's going on?
People need to stop reviewing individual episodes like movies when they're not the final episode.
It's not the entire thing.
Like I said, it is fair at the end of the season, like we did with Ahsoka, to go, "I didn't like XYZ," because you've watched the whole season. This is the first episode.
Yeah.
It's the first one. They're not going to answer every single question in the first episode.
This is, if anything, literally tying up loose ends from the previous season,
right?
And then building on to the next, building on to the plot of the next season.
Right.
That's what the first episode should do, and this pretty much did that.
I want to say the introduction of Ouroboros OB was amazing. I love that character. Yeah. I think
that's old people. You know that's the kid in Indiana Jones too.
Yes. Yeah. I think he might actually be my favorite character.
Yes, I love him.
I think this season, depending on how prominent he is, I think he's going to be one of my favorites throughout the whole season. So I'm super excited about that because he was so funny, even in the little bit of time we had him. Oh, yeah. And he's been around for thousands of years. He's like thousands of years old, most likely.
Oh, and oh my God, we'll probably get to it later, but the part where Loki, which we'll go back to it. We'll get to it. And when he time shifts into the past and he's talking to him for like the first time, again, and he's explaining what's going on. Then they shoot back to the present, and it's like, oh my God, it's the whole thing of time, like past, present, and future, all happening at once. Right. I was like, oh, this is such a great scene. I love
it was great. So the premise of the episode is Loki is time slipping because of what happened at the end of last season with Sylvie. So he's time slipping in the TVA, which technically is supposed to be impossible because the TVA exists outside of time. But I think what we're going to see is that there's going to be multiple TVAs somehow.
Yep.
That's what I think we're going to see. We're going to see multiple versions of the TVA that exist outside of time, but also can travel through time.
Sure. Did we talk about Quantum Mania?
What do you mean?
I don't know if it was you or not, but anyway, how they said like even the Infinity Stones don't work in the quantum realm. And some people were even kind of like saying like maybe the TVA is within the quantum realm, and that's why the Infinity Stones don't work there.
That's a good theory. I haven't heard that before. That's a good theory. But I also know that I don't think powers work in the TVA. I think the TVA is completely, you're cut off from pretty much everything. You're just there, which is why I don't think Loki used his magic in the TVA. I don't think he has.
No. I think he tried, and then he had like
Wait.
something on it that prevented it. Yeah, it's been so long.
I know. It's been over 2 years since we saw the last season. I remembered how it ended, but now I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again. It's only 6 episodes, but
it's not long.
I know they can use their powers at the end of time because they did that with Eliath when they fought Eliath at the end of time.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about in the TVA.
But then the TVA, it's probably like some weird pocket dimension where none of that stuff works.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, time flows differently. The TVA exists in a place where time is literally like walking through a door. Like this door could be 1940, that door could be 1950, this could be 1960, and you just have the ability to walk in and out of it as you want. That's kind of how the TVA functions, as far as I can tell. So time slipping in the TVA doesn't make a lot of sense, but clearly that's what's happening with Loki. So
it was same TVA, it's just different points. That's why things were so different.
Yeah. So Robert confirms that magic doesn't work in the TVA, so he hasn't used it there. So any of those things that exist in their outside universe does not work within the walls of the TVA. So he's time slipping, shouldn't be happening. He's going back and forth. I think at the beginning it's just the past and the present, where he's going back in time and then coming back forward. And so Mobius and I think it's what B15 is her name.
Yeah, was it B12? No, it was B15. I don't think it was B12. That's a vitamin.
Somebody said it was B19. I think it's B15.
I want to say it's B15.
I get confused on numbers, so anyway, jumping around and trying to figure out where things are, and he can't stop it. And so they decide to go to Ouroboros. And this is after. Wait, we should probably talk about the council meeting first because that's important.
Oh, yeah.
They go to the council meeting. They're trying to figure things out after what happened with the timekeepers. And now everything is sort of up in the air. We have the timelines,
robots.
Yeah, branching out beyond the point of safety for the TVA. And we have this conflict where now that they've realized that all of them are variants, every timeline they prune, they're essentially killing people. All of them, because they're not correcting the one timeline. They're eliminating other universes from existing.
Which is what Kang wanted, or the original Kang wanted. Well, not the original Kang, which is what the He Who Remains wanted. He wanted just the one timeline, so to kind of stabilize everything, or else once things branches out, there's multiple of him, and thus we get the Council of Kangs, and then Immortus, Crimson, what's his name?
So I feel like the Timekeepers were created after several iterations of the TVA to sort of allow Kang or He Who Remains to go off and do whatever he wants at that point.
That probably explains why when Loki, especially at the end of the last season, he comes back and he sees the statue of the with the Kangs, and then his TVA was the one that it was like paved over. That's where he takes the pruning thing, sticks it in the wall, and you see, because it was probably paved over at times. Like, my face isn't needed here. Just go ahead and pave this over. I'm gonna go ahead and screw off to the end of time.
And Miss Minutes basically ran everything after that. They talked about how Miss Minutes did everything that wasn't automated. So the statue of Kang had always been there, except by the time Loki got to the TVA,
it's not needed anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, we have that going on, and it seems like half of the group wants to continue pruning timelines because they feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
the other half because they want to do it.
Like, wait a minute. Those other half's like, whoa, wait a minute. We pump the brakes here.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking awful that they find out they're destroying entire worlds and basically universes, and they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand that they've been doing this for a long time, but it's pretty clear, at the very least, even if you don't believe that Kang or He Who Remains was the person in charge, that something fucked up has happened, because Loki time slipping in the TVA is your first big red flag that something there isn't as it seems.
Yeah, something that's not supposed to happen for like what, God knows how long, and it finally happens. Is like,
and the fact that he proves that the wall was basically paved over. So the fact that they're continuing to do it after that feels like a kind of a fucked up situation. They know they're killing people at that point. So there's not a lot of redemption for them in that regard. And so I feel very strongly that Loki and Mobius and Obi and all of the other characters are going to be basically trying to stop them from killing universe. I keep saying worlds, but entire universes.
Entire universes that are gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty fucking wild. So who knows what that's going to lead to. But then we go down, we have the great scene between Obi and Mobius who are trying to figure out what's going on with Loki. And what I loved about it was when they met in that scene, that was Loki meeting Mobius for the second time. However, when Loki went back in time, he was meeting Mobius for he was meeting Obi for his first time, but Loki's second time.
Yeah.
So it's really like a mind fuck.
Yeah, it's like the whole past, present, and future all takes place at the same time. So it's like when he's in the present, but he goes back that's his first time meeting him is in the present, but the second time is in the past. If that doesn't make sense, it ain't supposed to.
Right. So he gets him to build this machine that sort of, it's a MacGuffin, basically. It's a machine that will lock Loki into the present day, so he doesn't have to jump throughout time. And the way this thing works is either it works or they're both dead, basically. Loki is lost in time forever, and Mobius has his skin melted off, which is like a gag joke through the whole thing.
I was gonna say it's probably not to Indiana Jones, where they all had their faces melt off, where how the suit was just deteriorating in time. But I don't know. That's probably
so. Anyway, it locks into the time loom, which is a machine that sort of powers the timelines or aggregates the timelines. I didn't really understand what it did, because you saw all the branching lines coming out of it, but what does that even mean? I'm not sure what that means.
I don't think they fully explained that yet. Maybe in the next episode. So who knows?
I feel like it's a cool piece of equipment, and I think it's going to be a big deal because I think we see it more than once throughout the series, or the season. But we have this machine that sort of regulates how many timelines can happen at the same time, and it's overheating because they're no longer pruning them. Right, they're not pruning them.
Yeah, it just weighs the timelines into one. It's just there's way too many. It's just overheating itself.
Yeah. So they put that MacGuffin in to save Loki. Loki is jumping into the future at this point. So he's in the future, and it looks like the TVA is being evacuated for something. We don't know what it is. And Sylvie is there and sees Loki before he can like prune himself from the timeline and get pulled in with the siphon and then put back into present day. It's a lot of convoluted MacGuffin stuff. This was probably the weakest part of the episode for me in terms of story, because I didn't think they were doing anything new with this, which is completely odd from the standpoint of what they did earlier with the Loki meeting Obi meeting Loki stuff, which I thought was very smart. So this felt like sort of we need something to happen in this part of the episode, and that's what we're going to do, because I think they could have come up with a better way to do it. Although I will say, like, the retrofuturism vibe of Loki, the aesthetic of the whole
the whole like 70s really cool. Future vision of the future type. Always like that design.
I think it's really interesting, and I believe they changed showrunners from one season to this season, like the person in charge of the storyline and stuff. And a lot of people that have seen the first 3 episodes say that it becomes very clear it's a different person, basically running the ship on Loki. I don't know what that essentially means, but I felt like it was fine to me. I didn't have too many complaints about it. It still feels like the same show right now, but maybe that'll change as we get beyond episode 1. And then we see Sylvie back in, I think was it 1940s?
No, she was in 1982, the year I was born. Yes, I'm.
Oh, okay, 82, gotcha. Where she's gonna be working at McDonald's, I guess, is what they're gonna be doing for the show. We've seen previews of that already, so we know that's kind of what's gonna happen with her, but we don't really know how she gets to that point. But we know she's there, and she's gonna be doing her thing.
She's probably seeing people just living normal, regular lives, and that's something she was denied.
She's wanted it she's wanted that for her entire existence. So Cody says, who's a Team Airrick member for 45 months. Thank you so much, Cody. Also, writers, this is not Waldron writing. I know that it's somebody else. So I do get that it's going to be a little odd. Yeah. I don't expect perfect writing for anything. I think the writing something perfectly is boring. I think there needs to be ebbs and flows. I just hope that the vibe of Loki feels
as long as it keeps that same same feeling. Yeah, I'm all I don't care.
Yeah. So what would you give this first episode of Loki in season 2?
It was a solid 8. I thoroughly enjoyed it and wanting more. Yeah, that's even with Ahsoka, it's kind of like, it starts off strong. Let's see how it sticks. Let's see how that sticks at landing.
My only criticism of what they're setting up is that I hope this Sylvie thing doesn't turn into them looking for her again like they did in season 1.
Yeah,
I don't want to spend the whole season doing that again. So Hell's Bell says, when I saw the Loom machine, all I was thinking was the Loom of Fate from Legends of Tomorrow. Yeah.
Just like shiny.
Anyone else worried about Tom Hiddleston's neck with all that hair whipping? Too funny. All right, so let's wrap up today's episode by talking about the show that makes it really difficult to have conversations about on YouTube, and that is Gen V. So we pick up after the end of episode 3, which was that was a really rough first 3 episodes last week. But pick up at the end where it looks like Emma has dug herself through the brain of one of these soldiers, and they believe that Sam skull fucked him before he escaped.
That sounds disgusting and horrible, but given how some of these other heroes, quote unquote, V-injected people are, oh boy, it's actually not that far from what might have happened.
I want to be honest that this episode felt a little bit too satirical for me at times. And we'll get to those. That's why we saved it for last. You guys come back and watch it later. It felt a little too satirical for me at times, and I'm going to tell you at each point where it felt that way. So, knowing what Tech Knight ends up being accused of doing in this episode and then caught doing, this felt like a foreshadowing to what was going to happen later, and it felt a little silly they would immediately go to that, because then later on she brings up the fact that she's like, what is it with you guys and skull fucking, which I thought was, look, the boys universe doesn't take itself too seriously anyway, but this felt
especially in the comics. Boy, the comics are worse than it. You think the show's bad? The comics are. Whew.
But Sam is fucking ridiculous. Like, I'm assuming I went on the wiki to read what his powers are. Technically, he's basically like a soldier boy. He's super, super, super strong, fast, pretty invincible in terms of like conventional means,
just not mentally stable.
Right.
Kind of like Black Noir.
Soldier boy. Like
Black Noir. He's almost like a super. So he's almost like Soldier Boy. He's not mentally all that. Especially after when Soldier Boy beats the ever living hell out of him, he's even worse.
So I think in a world where Sam isn't a little outside of his mind, and we'll talk about why that is in a second, he would have been essentially the front runner for their like Homelander / Soldier Boy person, because his brother as Golden Boy was flashy and shiny and everything, but Sam has all of the powers that would be necessary for him to be the leader of the 7, essentially. So I also feel like they were experimenting on him because they want to find out how to specifically give people those powers instead of it being by chance. I think they want to make it so if they want to make someone
they can control it,
they can just do it. So I think that's why they were experimenting. We'll find out more about that later on.
That's kind of like, I'm kind of thinking the same thing too.
Right. So he escapes with Emma, and they're hanging out at this old building where he has memories of like his time with his friends and family and Luke, which by the way, at this point, he still doesn't know that Luke that's dead. And so Emma and him are having this bonding moment. I thought this was really good. I can see why the two of them would bond. They have a similar vision of the world, so it does make sense to me they would. But I would say that Sam is a little bit further gone than Emma is, but she's doing a good job of like sort of talking him down. But then we find out why he is the way he is. Apparently, he hears this fake TV show with puppets telling him what to do.
The deep puppets.
And he called it like fake TV Jason Ritter, I think is what he called him.
The TV's John Ritter.
Yeah, let me see. Hold on.
I think that's an actual actor. I want to say he was in Perfect Strangers.
No, it's Jason Ritter. Jason Ritter is the actor.
Okay, no, I'm thinking something
he's
else.
Yeah. So, but he keeps calling him like fake Jason Ritter or whatever with these puppets, and he's telling him to do stuff. So my question now is this another super in his head, or is he actually seeing something? Because I felt like this was another super.
No, I think it's just something like how Black Noir had those cartoons playing in his head, especially near the like the last few episodes of season 3.
Yeah. So I
think it's something like that.
You think these are hallucinations then? Is what?
Yeah, I think they're hallucinations.
Okay. I thought it'd be cool if it was like another super messing with him, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen or not. Anyway, this is what's essentially causing him to be in the state he's in.
Yeah, it's like, I think he's like schizophrenic or something. He's having all these hallucinations and other things that you see, kind of like how Black Noir especially had his had those cartoons, and then they had the whole cartoon explaining his backstory.
I feel like this is a really strange. I don't want to say like they have to be careful about the way they address this, but when it comes to mental health issues, it's always a fine line on whether or not you actually address it as a real thing, or you make it something fictional for the world that the characters exist in. So does he truly have schizophrenia, or are we going to find out it is someone messing with his head? That's the question.
Or like someone saying that it may have been like some sort of brainwashing that they tried to do to him, but like either just didn't work or backfired or something.
So you mean like while he's in the woods, they were brainwashing him with these things?
Yeah, with those shows and something.
Oh my gosh, you might be okay. All right. Maybe he is schizophrenic. Maybe that is true. Maybe he really is. Okay. But maybe that makes him malleable for whatever they want to do to him. Like maybe they were indoctrinating him by using this to control him. Like this was their
way like a fake Mr. Rogers, which is played by John Ritter.
like a shock collar on an animal, basically teaching him to do what they want him to do by. It reminds me a lot of Zoolander. Do you remember Zoolander when they had to like trick him into like
pieces of it?
So in Zoolander, they basically took him into this facility and had triggers for him to do things. Like if they wanted him to do this thing, they would tell him about it. They'd pick a trigger, and then that trigger would happen, and then he would do it. Right. I'm wondering if this might be a byproduct of that. Maybe he is schizophrenic, but maybe they're taking advantage of his schizophrenia. Maybe that's what was happening here. I'm not totally sure. Either way, it's interesting to me. We've never really seen. One thing I will say about Gen V is that we're seeing things in characters that we've never seen before in superheroes, and having a character with his powers isn't necessarily unique, but having a character with his powers that has hallucinations that tell him to do things, that is different from what we've normally seen. And so I think that's quite interesting that they're going down that route. And I think he's a far more interesting character than his brother was. Golden Boy was just a kind of, other than trying to figure out what was going on in his mind, which look, we could find out that Golden Boy was also suffering from the same thing that his brother was suffering from. Because remember, he was hearing stuff about the woods.
Yeah.
Before
or maybe they had like, maybe they were like psychically connected, or maybe he has like some latent telepathy or something. Who knows? Maybe
it's possible, because we know we have that telepathic guy. We're going to get to that in a second. That scene was, we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, so Emma and him are trying to do this bonding thing. He isn't totally coming clean to her about it. She kind of understands that there's something, that he's seeing something, but she doesn't truly know what it is. And so he's told that he has to go like kill this doctor that worked in the, the facility with him. And we're going to put an end on that story there, because I think we need to talk about the other characters before we get to the next part. Okay. So while that's going on, I want to point out, Emma also comes clean to him about how her powers work. And so he thinks that's pretty fucked up. And so they again bond there. So yeah, there we go. We have Marie, who is trying to find out where her sister and Emma is. And so she ends up talking to this guy, who is basically Professor X. He's a telepath. And apparently he can do, did he say he have telekinesis as well, or was it just telepathy and projection, astral projection?
It was like telepathy or something.
He had a couple different things. Anyway, basically he's an asshole Professor X. Like he can see things. And so he's creepy as fuck, first of all.
Every soup in this universe has to have something just effed up with them. And this guy's a total creeper.
And we see Jordan watching while Marie is talking to this guy, like off in the background. And Marie gets a little bit of information from him. And then suddenly
she just blacks out.
She blacks out and she's in his dorm room. And he's wearing this 1970s, silk robe,
just hanging out, and she's
just naked as fuck. Right.
All she has on is like a t-shirt and just like in the midst of getting undressed, and she wakes up and she just sees him like this. It's like, what are you doing?
And we hear someone banging on the door. Now, at first, I thought this might have been like a mental like this was something he was doing in his mind, like he had trapped.
They're trying to get more information or something.
Yeah, but it's not. This is reality. So he basically mentally roofied her and took her back to his dorm room because she doesn't remember anything from the time she sat down next to him to the time they were in the room together, which I don't think they addressed the fact that she lost time there.
Well, I think he said, with Jordan, I think she said like, oh yeah, he has he always wants you to get close to him because he has some sort of pheromones that knock you out or something like that.
Yeah, and this is another thing, Hell's Bells. I was about to bring this up because it's not what it looks like, and so we don't know what that. I don't know if we're ever going to find out what that means because I'm not really sure when we will. We'll get to that. We have a $5 super chat from Naruto. I'm wondering if Marie's sister will end up being a student at the college. I would not be surprised if she's in the woods. That would be interesting, or if she has powers and she's just not at that college at all. Because I feel like there has to be something with her sister that we're not being told.
Yeah.
What if her sister ends up being like an assassin for Vought or something? I mean, there are endless possibilities of what could be going on with her sister. But I will say I do believe her sister is going to have an important role to play in the season because they're spending way too much time on that aspect. And her sister saw what she did to her parents. So I would not be surprised if her sister's part of a program that hunts down supers. I mean, at this point, it could be any of those things. Or maybe her sister works in the woods. Maybe she's somebody that works in that facility.
Yeah, there's so many directions they could go with that.
They could, and I'm excited about where that's going to go.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get this one, the gross scene of the episode, which is she explodes his dick.
Yeah. You see it's just getting bigger and he's like start pulsing. He's like, "What are you doing?" And when Jordan finally busts through the room, she loses concentration and just.
So she explodes his dick. I mean, I think I've seen.
It was gross, and as a guy, I'm like, oh my god, but that's what you get.
I have seen more penis in TV on the boys shows than I've seen on anything else in my life. I feel like that's just they have this thing about putting penis in our face in the boys. So we've seen 2 this season already. We've seen 2.
I mean, granted, some of the
and the one that we saw earlier was actually again built to be used on set. So there was a giant dick on set somewhere.
Yeah, was it? I think Ben sent me he tagged me in a tweet saying like, yeah, they actually built the set for that. I was like, oh yeah, they actually built the set for when termite crawled to that guy's urethra and then sneezed and expanded and blew his dick out.
Yeah. So wild. So anyway, she does that, and then we kind of just leave that moment. I don't know if that's going to come up later or not. We might go back to that at some point if the character needs to come back into play or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But at this point, Jordan is saying that she's being a friend to Marie, trying to help her, and Marie's not buying it because they've not had a good relationship or whatever. But Jordan is slowly becoming one of the least scumbaggy characters on the show in terms of like this world of the boys where everyone seems to be pretty much an asshole at this point. But then we have Tech Knight. Now, Tech Knight is a character that I don't know if he's necessarily a parallel to a comic book character. Yeah, I know Feather Guard. Yeah. Is Tech Knight based on a character from another comic? I don't remember a character that has like the ability to hyper focus on like your heart
reminds me of like
manipulations.
No, it reminds me of like a Constantine or maybe a Rorschach, or how do you pronounce his name?
Rorschach, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like someone who's like hyper attentive and is like, or almost even someone like as like a Batman, someone who's like not really superpower, but like just really like hyper aware of like someone's like pulse and like their whether or not they're having like if they're scared or something, they have like fear.
I mean, to be fair, his powers would be absolutely useless in the field, like in terms of fighting and stuff. He would be absolutely
he is an investigator.
Yeah. So we meet him. He's going around investigating people, and so we get to him going through and trying to figure out what happened with Golden Boy. And so he talks with Andre and his father,
And well, he talks with everybody, but the Andre stuff is quite interesting because he sort of sniffs out that Andre has been eating Kate's hole. And I'm like,
yeah, probably because he smells her vagina on his breath and because they sex.
Right. But again, this is another like foreshadowing to what he gets caught of doing later on. It's the second one because he talks about that, like basically he's like, did he know that you were with his girlfriend or whatever? And he's like, no, it happened afterwards. He's like, oh, so it did happen. I'm like, this guy is like, what the fuck? So anyway, Andre's over it. He's over this whole thing and, you know, sort of gets up and, you know, his dad's left there and whatnot, which by the way, I still want to find out how much his dad has to do with like what's happening in the world.
Yeah, he seems pretty high up and very, very conscious of his image. And he's like,
right.
He's always the one saying, do not fuck this up for me.
Right. So we have that situation going on with him, but then he's talking to Kate also. He's familiar with Kate and how her powers work because he tells her, if you take that glove off, I'll cut your fucking hand off or something like that.
Yeah, he knows her powers.
Yeah. So we got that going on. And then he ends up talking to Marie in class and basically humiliates her in front of everybody. And Marie comes clean about Jordan and what happened with Brink and Golden Boy. And, you know, pretty much comes out and says that I was expelled from school. And I thought this was quite interesting because there's a lot of stuff that these characters put up with in the boys' world. Tech Knight's powers don't seem very like attack oriented. So I'm sure almost every super in that school could defeat him. I mean, just being honest.
He probably has some sort of either super strength or super durability. I think that's kind of like a standard among.
Yeah, I think all of them do. I think they're all basically super soldiers. Yeah. So
higher than most people, but not like the strongest, whatever.
Yeah. So Tech would be a mix of Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark. Well, except we don't see him using any tech, even though his name is Tech Knight.
Yeah.
I don't think we see him.
I mean, I can kind of see that. It was kind of the whole like it's like intelligence and the whole deductive reasoning of that whole thing. So,
but then Jordan gets mad at Marie for
he's like, I wanted to tell the truth, but not put yourself in danger like that.
Right. So I get that, but she was mad at her for doing that to herself, and I'm like, well, you look really good in all of this because you basically you were the one that stopped
Golden Boy. Was literally the golden boy of the school. Somebody
asked earlier, I think it was Robert here, who are your favorite characters or power set?
I said in chat. I have to say either Marie and Starlight, which is they say they even call Marie the Black Starlight.
I have to say I love the idea, whether it's the bi-gender aspect or not, but I love the idea of Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan's cool.
Jordan in male or female form has different powers. And I find that to be really interesting. I don't know why, I just do. So Jordan in male form has like basically hyped up super soldier powers, like super strong, super durable, super fast. And then in female form has like these force field energy blast powers, which I think is quite interesting. I don't know. Something about that seems cool. It also seems like you'd have to be very well trained.
Almost kind of like the Wonder Twins in one person.
Yeah. I think that's quite an interesting thing. So for me, that from Gen V, that's the most interesting character for me. If I was saying the boys, the character who interested me the most, which ended up being a little bit of a letdown, was Black Noir. I felt that character was really interesting.
Because in the comics, he was literally a clone of Homelander, but he just couldn't fly.
Yeah.
But in the show, he's completely different.
And I don't know if I really don't know if I prefer that or not, to be honest.
And also, since they killed him, killed him.
Yeah.
I don't think he's dead.
Yeah. Tech Knight is one of the rare supes without any powers in the comics. Well, clearly he has powers on the show though, because he was able to hone in.
He just has like hypersenses or something.
So yeah. Anyway, so we have that going, and then after Sam runs away, Emma returns to the dorm, of course, shocking Jordan and Marie, and basically says, "Hey, we need to do something because, you know, this is happening." Kate makes up with Andre outside. When I say makes up, she basically is there for him after what happens with
being that that's probably something in the actual actress's contract. It's a bloodbender. It's probably something in the actual contract where she didn't want to show either her breast or anything like that. But I was like, in the show that already showed us like two dicks, we didn't see any boobs. Like, come on.
Yeah, it might. It's usually a contractual thing. But the other thing is, if it is in contract, usually they'll use like a stunt double or somebody that is comfortable doing that. They haven't even done that yet, so I have no idea. I don't know.
I mean, it's not like, oh, dude, I want to see breasts and not penises. I'm like, it's whatever. I don't care. If I really need to see breasts, I can just go to xnxx.com and see like some bigger than my head. It's if I really need to get it down like that. But anyway,
or Twitter. Twitter is full of
I know, right?
Stuff. Anyway, yeah, she's a bloodbender, so. Okay, so then we get to sort of the culmination of the whole episode, which is Sam has gone to this professor's house and wants to kill this professor that had stuff to do with all the things that happened in the woods, and all of the Gen V characters show up to stop him from doing it, and we get a really cool fight scene where we have Andre trying to use his metal powers or whatever to stop him by pushing the refrigerator into him, which I'm like, I don't think that's going to do much to Sam.
No,
Sam recognized them. Then he tells Kate, don't touch me because I know what your powers do. And then we have Emma try to talk him down. That doesn't really work. So then Marie has to use her powers. He starts slinging her around because essentially she's vulnerable while she's using the blood.
He could still, I guess when she's connected to the blood, he could still, yank her across.
I feel like there's something else she could have done blood-wise with him that would have been more formidable, but they wanted something more visually exciting or whatever. Anyway, so then we get the biggest reveal, I guess, is that something that people speculated.
Yeah.
If Emma overeats, if she binges, she gets bigger. So she's sort of like Ant-Man, but a fucked up version of Ant-Man.
She's a fucked up version of Ant-Man. Instead of, just pushing a button and just shrinking or getting bigger. Right. No, she has to eat or binge or purge to get bigger or smaller, which the show is screwed up.
So I mean, I think this is just, like I said, the world of the boys and the way powers work come at a cost for most characters. Like there's usually some sort of price to pay for having powers, and so that's quite interesting. But the cliffhanger for the episode is that we see a blackout from Marie again, and then she wakes up somewhere else
next to Jordan
again, and I'm like,
what just happened? Because before they were already kind of making out with each other with when she turned to male Jordan. But now we see her as female Jordan next to Marie, and it's like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. I'm not really sure what's happening there. I think it was supposed to be a little bit jarring in terms of where we're going to go from there.
Yeah, the next episode, they better explain what the hell is happening.
Yeah. And the next thing I want to talk about is, and I left this for the end because it's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, about the episode I didn't like, or the during credit scenes, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead. Go ahead and say what it is. So.
Oh yeah, because the dean was even saying like, "Oh, you better leave our star pupils alone, or else this goes out." And it's videos of him basically putting his dick into various orifices, not orifices of people. Like he'll put it in a cup or little candle holder thing,
random things, because he's got they say it's a brain tumor that was causing this or whatever. But they go a bit far with this satirically. I thought it was a little stupid, honestly. But then he ends up saying that he was wrong. There's nothing going on at God.
It was just a freak accident. It was a tragedy, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That's kind of where the episode ends. And we know that we may never see Tech Knight again. Maybe he's just a character that was brought in for that one episode or whatever.
When post credits gag where he just starts.
I have to say, I love this show. I'm loving Gen V right
dirty,
now.
As raunchy as right up my alley.
I mean, if you're somebody on social media that has complained about how formulaic a lot of these shows are, you need to watch this show. Yeah, it doesn't care. And I like that about the show. So for me, I think it's a big plus. I love this episode. I'm going to give it like an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really strong episode again from this series. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season and where it's going to go. But I do believe that this show, for me, has a pretty clear identity. And the characters are extremely interesting. Like I said, we're seeing stuff on the show we've never seen sort of addressed in the superhero world. A bigender character who has powers in different forms. A version of Ant-Man who has to binge or purge to get to use their powers.
Someone whose powers aren't so sparkly and pretty, and then they kind of just pass her over for someone better, even though she's more than qualified for it.
Yeah,
and it's that and the whole like just corporate freaking it's like that's the main thing why I just cringe at. It's like, oh my god, this whole corporate culture that they have. It is like it's not about actually saving people. No, it's about image. It's like I hate that.
So my theory about what happened at the end of the episode, and I could be completely wrong here, is that the doctor who Sam tried to attack called the Woods. They sent in a soup that has the ability to sort of make people black out or whatever and erase memories. And we're probably going to see them. They're not going to remember what happened that night. Most likely.
Yeah,
I think
that's probably was the guy from before.
Yeah.
When he roofied Marie early, it's probably him. I wouldn't be surprised if they called him in.
Yeah. And they may have done it. They may have told him he has to do that in order for them to repair his blown up penis. Yeah, most likely. So, because I wouldn't be surprised if there's a super that could do that, to be honest. So, it's not a formulaic show at all. It has many layers. Every character is compelling. Sam Luke's brother. Yeah. It's a complete flip on what superheroes are, and I think that's what makes it so.
Yeah, even with Luke, I was thinking like he was gonna be mad at Soldier Boy, not Soldier Boy. I thought he was gonna be mad at Homelander's son for taking his spot, but it went in a completely different direction.
Yeah. So Robert here says it's such a glaring statement each time they talk about numbers and appeal politics behind soups. I truly believe if supers did exist in our world, that it would be very similar to
some corporations going to try to give them all these brand deals and all this other stuff, and it's going to turn into just a corporate nightmare. So it's at the front door. It's me.
Yeah, I had to mute it there. So that never happens until I'm on stream. Every time I'm streaming with somebody comes to my door. Naruto here with a $5 super chat. At the end of the episode, I thought my TV glitched and I missed something. I was confused too. I actually think artistically that was what made it interesting because we all sort of were wondering.
Yeah, I was playing like 7 Days of Die. I look over and like, whoa, wait, what? I had to actually rewind back to see what happened. And I was like, oh, so that's exactly what happened.
So I'm truly enjoying it. I actually think that this show is one of the best shows right now in terms of superhero shows, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And they did say that the end of this would lead into the next season of The Boys. So I have no idea what that means, but we're going to figure that out.
I think they said they're filming the next season of The Boys, or
most likely. Well, they were until the strike happened. They're obviously not filming right now, but
you're probably going to start back up soon.
So I'm super excited about it. However, we have come to the end of the stream, so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Omega for joining me. We talked about these shows. Don't forget, we will be live next Saturday at the same time, talking about, well, we don't have Ahsoka now. We just have obviously Loki and Gen V, which means that we'll get into the gross stuff much earlier than usual.
Unless you want to, throw Castlevania in there. I'm not sure if you're interested in Castlevania, which I've already saw the last episode, and oh my god, I'll binge it. I always like the video game Castlevania. Symphony of the Night is one of my favorite games of all time, and this show does the second series of Castlevania does not disappoint.
I will definitely binge it this week, and we will throw it together for next Saturday.
Yeah, just kind of throwing out there. Whatever.
No, it's good. I can binge it. I wanted to watch it. We actually looked at it the other day, and I said,
have you seen the first series? The first two seasons? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Nocturne's good. Nocturne's very good.
So, but anyway, that's pretty much it. So thanks everybody for being here, and check out Omega Well Tall in all places that you can find them.
I might, being that now I'm don't completely free of my previous obligations, so I might just start streaming whenever.
You're gonna do some Twitch stuff, maybe some stuff on Twitch. Right?
Just catch me on Twitch. I already have a few. I think I have a few clips on there. You can see me playing from games from the past, so I might start probably playing Star Citizen. They got some new stuff coming out.
Starfield?
No, I'm not a fan of Starfield.
I know. A lot of people are. Like you said, there's legitimate reasons not to play.
It's okay.
Game, so.
Not great.
So.
Anyway, I may play Cyberpunk. Phantom Liberty is amazing, by the way.
Oh, I've heard that. So go check out Omega on Twitch. Head him up on Twitch and social media everywhere. And you guys know where to find me. So anyway, we're out of here. Have a great Saturday night, everybody, and we will see you next weekend. Bye. Later.